groovy people, welcome to the channel. This is the self-proclaimed Blue Dragon, and we're taking a little bit of a break from the sketchbook tours that I've started of my 2015 to 2021 sketchbook. I'm at a point in the revamp of Dark Horse, my free, not safe for work webcomic, links down in the description. I'm at a point where I've redrawn one of my favorite pages, which is when Rena finally is kind of forced to figure out her magical girl powers a little bit. Not a lot, because it is her first time really accessing that part of her. But this was a big deal for me back in 2019 because I hadn't gotten to the magic part quite yet in the story. So when I was initially working on this page, I was looking at a lot of Magic Knight Ray Earth. I was looking at Sailor Moon. I actually recorded that back in 2019, January of that year. I just got done rewatching those videos. And I wanted to kind of talk about some of the differences, some of the changes, and some of the improvements that I feel I've made over the years since I had created this image originally. That's what we're doing in this video. I think it's kind of fun to reflect and compare, where one was at, a couple years ago versus where one is at now. It really is morale boosting to see how much improvement you make over a couple years. At least it is for me. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to be referencing my videos, Magic Rin Water Speed Paint Parts 1 and 2. This was back when I was definitely keeping all my videos down to 10 minutes. I split it in half because I was so nervous of going over 10 minutes, because that was kind of what YouTube wanted people to do back then, and now they prefer, I guess, longer videos, except for when they want shorts. I don't know what they want. I don't care. I'm just gonna keep doing what I want to do and have fun with it, because that's what this channel is about. It's not about placating an algorithm. It's about talking about art and comics and the process of creating art. For anyone who is out there that is either a comic artist or a writer, or just you create art of other forms or music or something like that, or anything, even if what your hobby isn't necessarily art related, this is like the video to kind of talk about that and have fun. If you want to leave comments about, kind of how your hobbies make you feel, that's cool and that's invited. You can do that down in the comment section. And I think it would be interesting to see. But let's talk a little bit about my original thought process here. There are some things I think I improved on. There's a handful of things that I think I could still improve on, but I'm going to go ahead and flash an image of the original page. This was back when Dark Horse was still reading in the natural format of the Japanese language, even though the comic is in English. So Rin is actually flipped and facing the right-hand side, but as this battle has unfolded with the revamp, I ended up having to flip her to face the left, because that's where Renshaw is coming at her from. This is a fight between her and Renshaw. I talk about that a little bit more in the cover art video, where I was talking about the cover for Battle Royal, which is the act I'm currently working on. So I won't go into much detail about that in this video, but one of the nice things about flipping your canvas, which I've talked about this before, and when I say canvas, I obviously do this traditionally, so it's not like I was flipping this one on the computer. I was actually flipping over my original sketch and trying to fix things so that I didn't have to do everything from scratch. But one of the nice things about flipping the canvas is, for some reason, if you've drawn something in one direction and you flip it, it really helps you if you're having difficulty seeing what is off about your characters or off about an image. It really helps contextualize that in your mind. So that was one thing that I really liked about having this redraw. One of the other things that was really bothering me about this page in particular is just how incredibly different Rena looks from her actual self. In the old version, you can see that her nose doesn't look right. Her eyes are a little bit too far spaced out, and they don't I don't know, there's just so much with this image that I don't think it's the worst. It's clearly not, the best either, but it doesn't really look like her. So one of the things that I've had to keep in mind as I'm working on the revamp is that I am working very hard to make sure that the characters actually look like who they're supposed to be. And that always kind of bothered me about this page, but it was such a hard page for me to draw at the time. I'd never drawn someone really with their arms up like that very much, and I was really proud of it at the time, even with these little things kind of nagging. I knew at the time that was probably the best I could do, and I was very proud of this image, and I am still very proud of it. Even though it's a hot mess, the background is awful, I didn't write the text very well, there's so much wrong with this. But at the same time, I was still very proud to get this done and actually have it look remotely nice, in my opinion. But as I was doing the redraw, I was noticing that, her face, it doesn't particularly look like her. The lighting is kind of weird. Like, there's supposed to be a glow from both her eye and the crystal, but I think I went a little overboard on the reflection of that light. So when I redid it, and you'll see this towards the end, I kind of toned that down a little bit. I also noticed that her arms were like super long. As a rule of thumb, while everyone's body is a little different, which means that, some people have longer arms than others, but as a rule of thumb when I'm drawing, I try to make sure that the arms would meet about midway down the thigh, approximately, thereabouts. And I noticed that in the original drawing, her arms are like super long. Like, I was actually measuring the arms to make sure that they were about the right, like from your, what is that? Is that the ulna? Like the ulna and the other part of your arm in your hands, they're almost equal in length, approximately. So I had been keeping that in mind. So there were a lot of things that I had learned and was trying to make sure that I, utilized and did to make the image look not quite so unbalanced. But when I came in for the redraw, I recognized that her arms are way too long for this character. She does not have super long arms, so that was something that I fixed whenever I flipped her. The other thing that had been driving me nuts from there were two things. There were some things that I mentioned in the videos, I should say. One was that I didn't like how I did the ripples around her waist. And when I did the redraw, I was like, wait a minute, she shouldn't have ripples. She's not standing in water. Why did I even do that to begin with? I just thought it would be cool. And again, I was kind of referencing, extremely skilled artists like the Clamp group. Umi was one of my favorites in Magical Knight Ray Earth. I love that. It often gets overlooked as a magical girl story because it kind of, it has magic, but also it has kind of a mecha feel with the giant avatars that they end up getting to ride and use. But it is a magical girl comic, and I love the shit out of it, and Magical Knight Ray Earth too. But I was looking at their comics and kind of referencing it. But yeah, so I don't know why I put those ripples in there. I was attempting to make something look cool, but it really just didn't make any sense at all. So I went ahead and removed that. And then the second thing that I wanted to say was bothering me. Even back then, I spent way too much time on her quote-unquote jeans. So much time, in fact, that I forgot that she wasn't even freaking wearing jeans. She was wearing khakis. She was wearing khaki shorts with like this little embroidery and sequin design on the leg. Actually, a little tidbit, the pants she's wearing in this are actually the same pants that she was wearing back in Act 1 at the end of school. So I did that. I don't know, no one's gonna notice that because they don't really even look the same, but I'm gonna put up a picture of her pants from Act 1. Those are the same pants she's wearing here. Because, you rewear your clothes, and those are kind of some of her favorite pants. Another improvement that I made on this image is before I had been hand drawing in her daisy pattern on her halter top. I actually had this halter top when I was in in like 7th and 8th grade. I think I still had it in high school. I wore the shit out of this until it almost fell apart. But I have been hand drawing the halter top design, and when I came in for the revamp, I've been trying to make sure that where I can, I've been making my own patterns, and I thought, let's do the daisy design because it's looking it's uneven. The daisies change. It just doesn't look like a shirt, and I wanted that to be something that I changed so that it looked a little bit better whenever I go to print. So that was something that I did. I've been learning how to do patterns. Another change that I made with this image was initially when I started working on this comic, I wanted the third eye to be less noticeable because there is going to be something important regarding the third eye and regarding the crystal lotus and all of this way later towards the end of the comic. So at the time I was like, well, I don't want that eye to be very noticeable because I want it to be kind of a surprise. But in my redo, and even when I was working on Awakening the first time around, which I haven't gotten to for the revamp, a lot of those pages I'm going to get to keep, which is nice because I'm happy with how a lot of those turned out. But by that point, I decided, you know what? We need to see this third eye. It's going to be important later on. So when I did the redraw, rather than having her bangs partially cover that, I decided to just completely have that eye noticeable, both whenever she first ran into that strange spirit creature being back in the Crystal Lotus and now. So I'm making it more noticeable. Before I was keeping it more hidden, but now it's like, no, this is going to be important, so let's go ahead and have it seen like it should be. One final change that I did is with the text, with the sound effects. I was trying, this is me being kind to myself, but also being critical of myself. You can clearly see in the old image that I was giving a stab at handwriting more of my sound effects and text effects. And I'm glad I did that. It doesn't look bad. It does look like my style. But with this year, it's not like my main focus, but I'm trying to work on improving my word art within the comic so that it looks a little better than it did. So like with the previous page, you can see that I was experimenting and having the words kind of be part of that being's hair and just kind of flowing out. I wanted to have fun with that, but it's just kind of a cool effect. Again, years later, I'll probably improve on that also. But for now, I'm very happy with how I've been experimenting with the fonts and the text. And so when I did this redraw, that's something else that I kept in mind. It's something that I'm going to be really trying to focus on and practice and come up with things next year. This year I'm trying to work on my composition, but next year I want to think even more about fonts and actually start studying different fonts. But I'm happy with the changes that I made on that. It took a lot of time to color that digitally, but I think it was worth it in the long run. So whereas now in my drawing career, I guess you could say, I'm a lot more comfortable with drawing the figure. I know that I still make mistakes and I know that I still have a long way to go to improve drawing dynamic figures. But this page, the figure part came far more naturally to me than it had previously done. I remember how hard this page was for me to draw originally. And when I think back to, just this year drawing her, yes, of course, I was doing a little bit of tracing of the old one and fixing things up. But even with the previous page, that's all new content, completely new. And it came so fast. I'm drawing so much faster. It feels more natural to me now. So that when I redid this page, I still had a challenge, because that challenge came in the form of creating a new font that felt watery, that really embodied the sound effects, the magical sha You know, like a splashy sound. How'd that go again? But yeah, anyway, I think I've talked enough about this image. I am happy with the progress. I know I'm still improving, but man, I've been having so much fun with Act 9 that I just wanted to take a break from the sketchbook tour and kind of do a compare and contrast, you know, where I was a couple years ago. This was like, 3 years ago now? So I think I've made a lot of improvements, and I know that I'll continue to improve. So I thought I would share that with y'all, especially some of you who have been around since the beginning of this channel. I thought it'd be kind of cool for y'all to see this retrospective on this page. Now, the composition's still not the best. I probably should have moved her over to the right a little bit more. But yeah, you know what? I'm happy with it. Things can be in the center of the page sometimes. I need to come to terms with that. You don't always have to follow the rule of thirds or whatever the heck it is. But yeah, that's all I got for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. We'll see you next week. Peace and love. Fare you well. And keep on trucking.